Rev John McLean, and it is the delight of my life that I get to speak an encouraging word that helps to set people free. I want to make sure that I see everybody today. Hi, Patricia. Who's hiding in the back? Okay, great, fantastic. I have been when you've seen me on video, I've been doing a series on the 12 powers of man. It was an idea that Charles Fillmore came up with. He borrowed it from other people, actually from Emma Curtis Hopkins. And, you know, I live alone. I forget to do all those things I'm supposed to do to make myself look professional. Okay, that's better. And he came up with this notion that there are 12 aspects of consciousness or 12 ways of focusing if we come into contact with a certain need or conflict in our lives. And the video talks that I've been doing have all been focusing on one of them. And we are on number 11 today, but we have spoken about faith, strength, judgment, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, and today we're going to talk about renunciation. Renunciation. Talked about zeal last week. The last video I had was zeal. So today we're talking about renunciation. And for those of you who are here for the first time, you're going to think this is a crazy church, but just know that I'm not the usual minister, okay? Fair warning. You got that? The original power that Charles Fillmore wrote about was called elimination. Now, the topic of elimination, or the idea, you know where I'm going with this. I don't even know how to get into it. Charles Fillmore was a very trendy and hip guy. He really was very current with ideas about health and healing and a variety of things. He was a very smart, curious, and hip guy. And in the late 1800s, the topic of elimination was huge because people often felt that a lack of elimination was the problem, the root problem for a million different things. Most of you know what I'm talking about. If anybody had a grandmother that was born in the late 1800s, she would always say, "Did you have a BM today?" And you go, "Grandma, let's not talk about," am I right? Yeah. Yes, I'm right. And one of the most famous people in America in the late 1800s was a doctor named John Harvey Kellogg, who invented Kellogg's cornflakes to keep you regular. And he also introduced hydrotherapy into America. Some of you know this. C.W. Post invented bran flakes to keep you regular. This was the first cereal in the United States because this was a huge need. Now, as a metaphor, it is easy to see if you are holding on to things that no longer have nutrition, it will in time putrefy and make you ill. And that is the whole notion. You can call me Reverend Potty Mouth today. That's our topic, isn't it? Yeah. That's an easy jump, right? If you're holding on to stuff that are really no longer serving you, it will turn around and hurt you. Very simple idea and a very profound idea. We had a great class yesterday. Some of you were here, and I'm grateful for those that showed up. We have I've had a lot of experience with nonviolent communication trainers, and the one that lives right here in Cornville is very skilled. I'll tell you that. And she did a 2-hour introduction, and that's what all those papers are up there. We wanted to leave it up because she introduced nonviolent communication as an internal spiritual process, more than a technique of facilitating conversation. It's an internal process, and a great deal of it is based on letting go of what you think you know. Very profound, very simple, very elegant technique, and most challenging to practice on a minute-by-minute basis. So there are many techniques that we have about eliminating that which is no longer a blessing to us. I will move now to this author. I based all my talks on William Warch's book, Your 12 Gifts from God. And here's what he has to say about renunciation, formerly known as elimination. Renunciation is my ability to say no to the untrue and the undesirable. Renunciation helps me eliminate errors, so to expand goodness in my life. Renunciation allows me to release and forgive, as well as let go of old thoughts. Now, a few of the notions that I have to share with you about this, because this is quite important. There comes a time when you all have to grow strong enough in your conviction that you will say no, that you will set appropriate boundaries in your life. When something is not working for you, even Dr. King said, somebody asked him, why do you organize for civil rights? And he says, well, as long as folks are organizing against us, we're going to organize for what we believe to be the healing truth. I went, oh, right? That makes complete sense. You have to organize for yourself. Now, you can use a technique like nonviolent communication as an internal process by thinking, as mean and crusty and cranky as that boss of mine might be, you know, he has a need and he just doesn't know how to express it. Right? Hard to let go when negative energy is coming at you. Hard to let go of that. But sometimes we just need to say no. My favorite teaching tool is not the Bible, it's The Wizard of Oz, the movie. And when Dorothy first arrives in Munchkin Land, not in Oz, but in Munchkin Land, all of a sudden, the Glinda the Good Witch shows up in a bubble, and the Wicked Witch of the West shows up as well. And she says, who killed my sister? I want the ruby slippers. All of us know this, right? You know the scene that I'm talking about. And Glinda, I'm serious when I talk about The Wizard of Oz. It was specifically written as a spiritual journey book. That was Baum's intention. Glinda shows up in her crown chakra, right? And most of the time when confronted by the Wicked Witch of the West, Glinda has her arm right around Dorothy. There is that in you that will always protect you too. Glinda gets the ruby slippers on Dorothy, and the Wicked Witch says, give me those slippers. I'm the only one that knows how to use them. And Glinda says, you have no power here. Be gone. Be gone before someone drops a house on you. And she laughs. You have no power here. Be gone. You know, that's actually a pretty powerful example. That is a really great way to say no, thank you. Or you are not the boss of me. Get out of my face. It's like, you can bring all your ugly to me as long as you want and all your unskilled behavior. But you know what? You have no power over my thought process. Be gone. You don't have any power here. Boy, that's an advanced consciousness, right? And man, that would be great if we could be like that all the time. And so it's a minute by minute practice. It's a minute by minute practice. Saying no, releasing, eliminating, being in renunciation is also about giving up all fantasies and false hopes, giving up magical thinking, looking at life as it is and really being real. One of the great healings that I experienced through my practice of tithing, which I bitterly resented at first, but it healed my fear of financial insecurity, is what it actually did for me. But even when I started tithing, I was doing it as a bet, because so many of our unity centers, and they say, well, I know whatever I give returns to me multiplied abundantly. And I always kept thinking, okay, I'll give my church $20 and I better get 100 back. It was like playing roulette until I got to a finer understanding, and I stopped asking of that of life. I stopped wanting it, and I got to a place, if I need $100, I can make it. I can make it. I don't need to be involved in any kind of magical thinking or making jokes about, well, when I win the lottery, I'm going to get that. It allows us to be real when we give up false hopes, magical thinking, and fantasies. Renunciation is also about giving up greed and hatred. And that's kind of a hard one to give up, because it's so easy to want to call, well, they're wrong. And what don't they get about such and such? And they're just, that's a lot of our daily conversation or our internal thinking. There's a translation of Psalm number 1 that I love. It's very short. And it's, blessed is the man and the woman that has grown beyond greed and hatred and no longer nourish illusions. They delight in the way things are. They are like trees planted by flowing rivers. They will bear fruit when it is time. Their leaves will not wither and fall. Everything they do will succeed. But it's until we give up greed, hatred, and false illusions, and magical thinking, and waiting for Superman to rescue us, or waiting to get a new partner so they'll pay all the bills and pay off my credit card debt. To lay all of that aside and be real, be really real, and to know that, of course, I'm adequate to the needs of my life. If I'm not adequate to the needs of my life, who could be? Which is an everyday way of saying, if God be for me, who could be against me? Nobody. Nobody. That's a false illusion. Renunciation is giving up the need to be right, giving up the need to be the boss of everything. I remember the first time I was like 10 years old, and my little sister had a friend, Annie. And as a 10-year-old, I said to Annie, would you girls kind of do something? And Annie said, you are not, put her hands all the way up here, you are not the boss of me. But don't you kind of feel like that? Why are you telling me what to do? You are not the boss of me. I know what I'm doing. This is my life. Well, most of the time. I know what I'm doing. And if I get it wrong, I'll find out the right way to do it. But to give up the need to be the boss of things is also to show a little dignity and respect for people. I didn't have the privilege of raising children in this lifetime. And so I don't know how hard it must be to have children and watch them make mistakes. I cannot imagine how conflicting that is. But I've seen other people make mistakes in the workplace. And it's like, oh, okay, I've been around that block. I know what's going to happen, but You got to let them get the learning, right? Right? That's a way more profitable way to be. Renunciation is also, as the author says, about forgiveness. Make sure you understand that forgiveness is never about making something that's not okay acceptable. Forgiveness is not ever justifying the unconscionable. There used to be a saying when I came into New Thought, where a lot of teachers would say, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. I couldn't stand that. That was so. Have I given up my reaction to that yet? No, not after 40 years. I'm a work in progress. Let it go. It has no power over me. But that is the issue. Forgiveness is knowing, guess what? It happened. It was not okay. Yeah, everybody breathed together. It happened. I'm sorry. But being spiritually mature is not pretending it never happened, but saying, well, like Linda says to the good witch, it has no power over me. It has no influence in the way I'm going to make decisions for me and my life going forward. Do I forgive? Yes. Do I forget? No. When I had a church in suburban Seattle, we had a tenant who up to a point had been a really great, amazing tenant. And then they burned us real bad financially. He had owned an extra building and it was rented to a school. And they disappeared overnight. And 2 years later, they came back and wanted to rent. And I said, I love the work that you do. I really do. And I really celebrate the work that you do. But no, because you don't get to burn my church twice. Right? No. So you forgive. And I found another tenant, and it changed the whole nature of that particular church, which was a beautiful thing. And I don't have to hate on them for the rest of my life. That I put that experience in my pocket and I move forward. And I go, there's just some mistakes I don't have to make twice. Like the mistake when I was at the airport in Newark and I was on my way to Europe with 2 friends, and I got up to the gate and realized I don't have my passport. That was a $3,000 mistake. Have I ever made that mistake again? No. Some mistakes you only make once. But renunciation ultimately is about forgiveness, about letting go, about learning the lesson. Listen to a podcast which was shockingly intriguing to me. A fellow was interviewing a gentleman who had been Joe Frazier's trainer early in Joe Frazier's career, heavyweight champion. And I thought, well, what does this guy have? Is he going to talk about that's going to be of interest to me? This is what a boxing trainer said. Lack of forgiveness is a self-imposed life sentence to solitary confinement. And I went, holy cow. And because it wasn't in real time, it was a podcast, I stopped it and I backed up a minute so I understood the question going in. And again, and this guy sounded like a boxing trainer from the movies with, you're going to go do this, it ain't going to be good. But he said, lack of forgiveness is a self-imposed life sentence to solitary confinement. And that's something I only had to hear once, and I didn't have to write it down. I remember it correctly as it was spoken. And then, of course, I think whenever I refuse to forgive, I'm the one that stays isolated. Yeah. When I don't forgive, you and you and you and you and you and him and him and him and him, and the Catholic Church and the everything and the this and Western Hemisphere, I'm just kind of painting myself into a little corner, and I'm there all alone. So how do you move from, sometimes you really are done wrong. It's just a fact. Sometimes people do cheat you out of a lot of money. Sometimes people are violent. It happens. But the beauty part of our teaching is that there is that of you always indwelling as Glinda, the good witch, which knows no such thing as fear. No such thing as fear. And sometimes we say things quickly, and it almost sounds like we're, saying the rosary, if any of you were raised Catholic. But to think, there is something in me that is perfect, that is whole, that is complete, that can never be diminished, that always was, is now, and in my belief, always will be. And I want that part of me to be the boss of my experience. Not the part of me that reacts all the time. Not the part of me that holds on to grudges. But, anybody is entitled to a good grudge for a weekend. Absolutely. A weekend. 24 to 48 hours. Go to Las Vegas, get as ugly as you want to get, But then the spiritually mature person is going to say, all right, what is there to learn? What was my part in this? Because even a lot, if it's a relationship we're having with somebody or with some idea or with some organization, we're the other half of the relationship. We're holding this end of the stick, right? And even if it's, I allowed myself to be stepped on, darn it. I allowed myself to be trespassed upon. Am I going to do that again? I hope not. I hope not. I put this in my warehouse of experiences that I can grow on and feed on for future encounters. This gift of consciousness that we have and these different areas that, the 12 powers are pretty much addressing your different aspects of your consciousness and how you can respond to things in a more skillful way. This is, as far as we know, we're the only people in all of creation that have the ability to do this, that can be responsible and are able to respond in any situation. So whenever are you over 10 years old, 12 years old? You're 11. Whenever I think to myself, what doo-doo am I still holding on to? And there's always something. And that's exactly what it is. How can I just set that aside? Or to carry the metaphor to a meaningful place, how can I use it like mulch to enrich some other thing? It's all part of a process. And the spiritual process is no different than the physical process. That we have a physical experience and we have a metaphysical experience. And of course, there are always going to be direct analogs to all these things. So what am I holding on to? that really is not only no longer nourishing me, but is poisoning my outlook on life? And can I say, you don't have any power over me anymore? Can I let it go? Can I identify it and lay it at the foot of the Godhead so it can be transformed into some other helpful energy? Yes, the answer is always yes. I can do that. Can I learn to reframe this experience in a different way? Can I forgive? There was a book written a long time ago, and I don't remember the name. I'm sorry to bring it up, but I'm free associating right now. And it was written by the members of the Amish community in Pennsylvania. And they said, in the face of there was an act of violence at this particular community. And they said, oh, forgiveness is the first response strategy for the Amish. You know, you read things like that and you hear it and you think, how can they be so filled with grace? To have even thought about it that long, where that's part of their DNA and their community. No matter what happens, forgiveness is the first response strategy, not getting even. There are so many ideas. You can call them spiritual ideas. You can call them plain old-fashioned wisdom about what works best over time, what promotes freedom, health, individuation for both myself and for the people that I'm in contact with. Whatever word and image you want to have about renunciation and elimination, know that it is really for one reason, and that's to create a sense of spaciousness within and without, a sense of spaciousness that allows all the good that could be to come to fruition in your life, your daily life, and the big visions that you have. There's a saying in one of the Protestant traditions, and they cheerfully say, forgiven the past, renewed for the future, we go forth rejoicing. I'm working on forgiving as much as I can remember. And there are things that pop up, even 65 years later, things that pop up, and I go, oh, okay, I'm not done with that yet. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I don't want to let you go. I might be around for a little while longer. We'll know more about that. But most of the stuff from our past is holding us back. So be as free as you can of the past so you can be fully in the present and enjoy each other. And God bless you, friends. I do love you all. Thank you.